Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Dr. Matthew Zeller. Dr. Zeller serves as the curator for Europe at the Musical Instrument Museum located in Phoenix, Arizona. He's here today to inform us about the outstanding special exhibition at the museum entitled The Magical Flute: Beauty, Enchantment, and Power. On display until September 13th, this remarkable exhibition brings together more than 100 extraordinary flutes from around the world, each telling a story of creativity, ceremony, identity, and innovation. During the program, we'll find out why and how the exhibition came about. We'll go on a behind the scenes tour, and in the process, come to better understand and appreciate not just the craftsmanship of these instruments, but the deeper cultural meaning behind them and how the flute continues to enchant the world today. Let's start by meeting Matthew and then finding out all about the magical flute: beauty, enchantment, and power. Welcome, Matthew. So delighted you're able to be here.
Thank you for having me, Jay. It's a real pleasure to be on today.
As you and I think many viewers remember, uh, very recently we were fortunate to have a colleague of yours, Sydney Rich, provide a wonderful overview of the incredible museum. And today we view this as just an extra special bonus to hear about the Magic Flute exhibition. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be of interest if you briefly share perhaps a little bit about your background, perhaps academic, professional interests, what your current position entails, please.
Yes, I am the curator for Europe at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, Arizona. I took a very windy path to get here, but I have been doing musical instruments professionally my entire life.
Mm.
I started out actually in woodwind restoration. So the flute show, the magical flute, Beauty, Enchantment, and Power, is actually going back to my roots a little bit
Ah.
with woodwind restoration. But then after that, I studied violin making and violin bow making, and I found my way to working at the National Music Museum and studying their very fine collection of instruments. And I found my way into academia much later in life,
Mm.
doing a doctoral work in musicology and publishing in music theory in that field as well, but always with musical instruments in mind, and always my ideas about musical instruments always guided me. And it's about creating timbre, tone color, what these instruments are capable of expressing as an art. And that's
Mm.
what really captivates me, what really gets me going. Even as a violin maker, I viewed myself as a timbre maker. I was
Mm.
creating tone color. And that's what these instruments are. They're tone color, and they're colors that we use to express art in some way. And the same with the flute show that we'll talk about today. All of these different flutes give you a slightly different timbre, a slightly different tone color, and a different way to express what it means to be human. And that is really just one of the joys that I have, and one of the things that I'm really passionate about with musical instruments.
I was just going to follow up by saying I really appreciate the passion you're sharing now with your field of study and the interesting perspective you just added that I hadn't really thought about as much. Why and how, moving on, did the current exhibition, The Magic Flute, come about?
Well, I mean, as many of these things do, you're sitting around a conference table talking with your colleagues and in the curatorial group. We were talking about what we could do as a co-curated show rather than as an individual show. We really wanted to do something to highlight the global nature of the Musical Instrument Museum, and that this is a global museum, and we really want to celebrate diverse cultures from around the world. So we thought about what's an instrument that we can reach into our very strong, very vast collection and tell compelling stories. And we very quickly settled on the flute
Hmm.
as an instrument that's ubiquitous around the world, but it is used in so many different ways and is really captivating and something that we thought we can tell some great stories with some really cool objects. And it's a make a really impactful show.
I think your response sort of begins to answer my next question is, why was it important to frame the flute not just as an instrument, but something more magical?
Because again, we want to celebrate human culture. We don't just celebrate the objects themselves. We tell stories through the objects, but what we're really doing is celebrating the cultures. And that's about how these instruments are used, what type of music they play, maybe if they're used spiritually or ritually. The flute is the breath of life. It really it's used in so many different ways around the world. And so we're capturing, of course, we can't tell every story, but we're capturing a lot of these different stories and really trying to dynamically and in a fun and interesting way tell these stories and share with people what gets us so excited about these instruments because we think they're really cool, and I think other people will think they're cool too.
For sure. With more than 100 flutes spanning thousands of years, how did you decide what stories to prioritize?
Well, I think there were a few obvious ones for me that I wanted to get to. You know, one of the first performers contemporary that I thought of was Sir James Galway. I wanted to get one of Sir James's flutes in. That's a great story to tell. I thought, for me, table bim, the development of key systems, those were the easy go-tos. But my colleagues, they also had their own easy go-tos. And then we kind of said, okay, let's now look at the big picture. These are the handful of stories that we all definitely want to tell, and now let's craft what are the other stories that really fill in the blanks that we can show both a kind of a holistic narrative of human history, but then also these individual stories, these individual cultures that use flutes in completely distinctive ways, and we want to highlight that and show and celebrate those features and those cultures.
Before we move on to enjoy some wonderful images from the exhibition, what surprised you and your colleagues most during the curatorial process?
That's a tough one. I think for me, actually, one of the things that surprised me was learning more about the nose flutes because it's not something that is from my curatorial area. And there are a couple of instruments, a bituutsu from Fiji and a tongale from the Philippines that are played through the nose rather than through the mouth.
Wow.
I think it's just fascinating. Of course, my own Western bias, I thought, well, maybe they're doing this so that they can sing at the same time. Maybe they're doing this so they can
Huh.
have polyphony. They can have, they can hum and play at the same time. No, not at all. It's this notion that the breath from the nose is more pure than breath from the mouth. And the mouth can lie, but breath from the nose can't. So it's a higher level of transcendence that's available through a nose flute rather than through a mouth. And that just blew me away. So I think learning about these individual stories, even though, we may know a lot about X, Y, and Z, they may not know much about A, B, and C over on the other side of the room. And I think that that's just so fascinating. It just invigorates me. And I love that about doing a co-curated show like this.
Oh, hearing your passion again is contagious. I mean, that is fascinating. Had no idea about that culture and background. You know, for those of us who haven't had the opportunity to visit in person yet, we're fortunate to have a wonderful selection of image that you and the museum have provided us with. And we're going to go on a little behind the scenes tour to enjoy as much as we might take in during the program. And I know when you encounter the museum, this is one of the first areas that visitors come to, like those that we're seeing here. Can you share what we're seeing in this panel, please?
Yeah, this is the entry into the Target Gallery, which is our special exhibition gallery. It changes every year. We have a new special exhibition. This year, of course, is the Magical Flute. And when you walk in, you are surrounded by this gorgeous blue. I can't tell you how cool, how great this blue is. It's inspired by Marc Chagall and Marc Chagall's artwork for the 1967 production of Mozart's The Magic Flute. And that's actually what you're seeing in the background here.
Mm.
There's a picture from the poster that Marc Chagall painted for that production. And there's a costume there in the back that was a costume designed by Marc Chagall for the
Wow.
Metropolitan Opera's 1967 production of the opera. And so this has, when I think of Chagall, blue is one of the colors I think of, and there's an incredible richness and it's alluring and it surrounds you and it brings you in. And that's, I think, this opening space when you first walk into the gallery, it envelops you. It just wraps you up and makes you want to be there. It's a very welcoming, very inviting space, but it sets the stage for really visually impactful experience that you're about to have. And of course, you also notice there on the right, we've got a large television monitor. We have television screens throughout the exhibition, and
Mm.
they're paired with our GuidePort technology, which is the headphones that our guests get. So people are able to see and hear the instruments come to life right before their eyes. So, and ears. And so the guests get to see the actual instruments that are on display being performed on in many cases, and they're able to hear Sir James Galway's gold flute. They're able to hear world-class performers play on these exceptional instruments. And so that's also another part of MIM's approach to sharing musical instruments with everybody is we always want to activate that musical instrument whenever we can and have the guest listen and learn and see the instrument being played in its cultural milieu. And that's really important to us.
I was so impressed when Sydney shared that aspect of the museum with us recently, that music, rightly so, surrounds you, engulfs you throughout the museum experience, and no doubt with the flutes as well. As we continue our tour, we find these two striking figures right in front of us. Please share what we're appreciating.
Yeah, so these are two really, really fantastic uh regalia, ritual costumes that we see. One is from the Chokwe people of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and that is the Chikunza uh, ancestor spirit, and the other one on the left is the Pwo spirit. These are paired with two whistles of the same form, representing the same two ancestor spirits. So we have the Chikunza mask, which has the big, striking, tall element on the headpiece, and that's paired with a whistle that's of the same form. And so you have a musical instrument and the traditional outfit that are both used to invoke the protective spirit of this ancestor. And I think this is a really excellent snapshot of what it means to this particular culture, to the Chokwe people, of, you know, how both a musical instrument or how a musical instrument fits into the society, how it's used in the society. And I think that's an important part of what we're trying to tell here as well.
No, it's fascinating to hear, as you mentioned, the emphasis on learning about different cultures and either how they play the flute or its meaning beyond what we in Western civilization might think of. As we continue our tour, we're struck by another couple of incredible costumes first and many other things in the background. Would you share this work, I believe, by Dame Zandra Rhodes?
Yes, yes, these are costumes for the opera, The Magical Flute by or the Magic Flute, excuse me, by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, one of the most celebrated operas of all time. It is a fun, fun piece of music. It's a if someone has never been to the opera before, this is a great opera to go to
Mm.
because it's easy to enjoy. It's a blast. It's great for children. And just look at these costumes. This is the sort of thing that you can see on stage. And they're inviting, they're enthralling. We've got Papageno is the bird catcher figure that's facing us. And then we've got a griffin costume, which is this wonderful, fantastical, magical beast that's in the forest, that's part of the staging. And then behind there is Tamino is the name of the character holding the magic flute, the prop flute that is you know the titular role there. And this is a flute that Tamino plays to enchant to complete his quests, basically. To he has to complete his quests and prove his worth. And that's of course the operatic libretto that we have. And this is a really wonderful story, and I think that's also one of the things that makes it so enduring. Is it's a great story,
Mm.
and that's what we're getting to with all of these instruments. Is we're telling great stories, and you can see a little bit on the left there. There's an image of the Greek god Pan,
Mm.
the idea of the pan pipe, which is an instrument that's found all around the world. Of course, we're calling it a pan pipe. That's a Western name, and it's named after the Greek god Pan. Well, the Greeks didn't call it a pan pipe; they called it a syrinx. That was their
Mm.
name for it. And the story goes that Pan, the god, was chasing a nymph named Syrinx, and she eluded him in the marshes. And to commemorate his love for her, he grabbed the reeds in the marshes and invented this instrument and
Ah.
the syrinx in tribute to her. And that's how we got the panpipe. And so that's the Greek version of the story. But there are panpipes from around the world, and you can see in this gallery panpipes from other cultures and other stories about how they created the panpipe and what they call it. And I think that's one of the things that's really exciting.
Oh, most definitely. And just hearing the brilliant way you and your colleagues have crafted the exhibition around storytelling, around the Magic Flute opera, just expands the notion of just going to an exhibition and enjoying flutes in a case, say, but you've really made it so inviting for us as visitors. We're going to continue and look at some individual examples in some of the time remaining. And here we see you and a colleague enjoying a flute. What are we seeing here?
Speaking of panpipes, I'm actually holding panpipes from the Nazca culture, from Peru. From these instruments are from around 600 CE. And my colleague there is Eddie Shu. He's our curator for Asia and Oceania. He's also a flute player himself and is a real expert in flute. So it was a
Mm.
um, wonderful to have him as one of our co-curators as the show because he brought so much as a performer of many different types of East Asian flutes.
Mhm. And moving on, see here you, and then we're going to have a close-up appreciating Napoleon faceted glass flute.
Yeah, so this is a flute that was owned by Napoleon Bonaparte, which is pretty
Wow.
incredible. It was made by Claude Laurent in 1813. And this is a sister instrument to the instrument that was presented to James Madison, also that's President James Madison. So this is wonderful, wonderful instrument. It is made of crystal, of leaded glass. It has 540 individually ground facets on it. It
Wow.
is just astounding to look at. And of course, it was owned by Napoleon. In terms of history, when you get to hold that history in your hands, it's pretty incredible.
Most definitely. Here we see a flute by gentleman you referred to earlier, Sir James Galway. Please share this incredible instrument.
This was Sir James Galway's concert flute. It was his primary concert flute in the early 2000s. It is 18 karat gold. It's encrusted in diamonds. It's got
Mm.
a diamond encrusted crown and D sharp key. It is a wonderful, wonderful flute, and we're thankful to Sir James to working with us, and this has entered our permanent collection now. So this is a wonderful instrument that will live at MIM for the
Wow.
rest of for the rest of its life. And this is a really, really great window into the beauty and the power and the enchantment that a flute can bring. It's a gorgeous object, and it goes to show, and when you see somebody on stage performing on this gold flute and those diamonds catch the light and the music that they're playing is
Wow.
at a top tier professional level. I mean, best flute player in the world. It is just, I mean, this has got it all. It brings it all together. And so this is, of course, a great instrument for us today.
Oh, what an opportunity to see that in person.
And to hear it, through we get to hear that instrument.
Mm. Moving on, we see just the another example of the broadening of cultures that the exhibition has. Here, I believe, is Emperor Go-Daigo's Hidoyogiri instrument.
Yeah, this is a 14th century Japanese instrument. It is phenomenal. This instrument will blow you away when you see it in person. It's
Mm.
bamboo and it's got this lacquered decoration, and each
Mm.
layer of lacquer is so thin and it's built up so beautifully. The depth of the decoration on this, it is just the way it catches the light, the multi-chromatic. It's really fantastic. And this was owned by the Japanese emperor. I mean, this again, it's like Napoleon's flute or Sir James Galway's flute. This is history, and it's history that's brought to life, and it's captivating. When you walk past this thing, every time you take it, you adjust your angle, and then you catch it in a new light, and you see something new. It's extraordinary, the decoration on this instrument.
Fabulous, fabulous. These next few that we're going to just hear briefly about were some of the flutes you referred to in the earlier remarks.
Yeah, there's a series of three flutes here, all made by an incredibly important maker named Theobald Bem. And Theobald Bem, in terms of Western flutes and really in terms of Western woodwind instruments, is probably the most important woodwind instrument maker.
Hmm.
He took us from this simple system flute that we see right now, which is just a boxwood body. It's got open finger holes and
Hmm.
it's got some keys on it, but the keys are simple levers. And then if we look to the next flute, this is one that he invented in 1832. And this is a type of, we call it imaginatively the 1832 system, a bunch of imaginative, organologists that we are. But he created a system of keys here and system of rings that allow you to actuate the pads that cover holes that you can't reach with your fingers. And so this was kind of the first stage of evolution, but he really wasn't happy with this flute. So he decided to quit playing flute professionally, go back to school, study acoustics, this brand
Huh.
new field of acoustics around 1840. And he came out, and in 1847, he designed a brand new version of the flute using mathematics, using physics, and he threw out the old idea of how we've always made flutes and other woodwind instruments, and he designed it using math and figured out how to make it acoustically the best that it could be. And then on top of all that, he had to figure out how to make a key system to allow our fingers to actually play it so that you can press a button here and it actuates a pad down there or way up there. And so that was revolutionary in woodwind instrument making.
Mm.
And this is the person and this is the flute that changed it all. And within just a couple of years, his system was applied to the clarinet. It was adapted for oboes and bassoons. It was adapted to all the woodwinds. And this is the story with these three flutes. The simple system from 1828. The one we have is the 1832 system. That particular one was made in 1835, and then the 1847 system, which is what we just call the BEM system. And this particular one was made in 1849, so just a couple of years after he invented it. But these three flutes really show us the story of innovation and invention,
Mhm.
how music changed. And this was the maker that did it.
Fascinating to hear that development and evolution over time. Matthew, as we get closer to the end, thinking back now, talking to visitors, if visitors could leave with one perhaps deeper understanding about the flute after enjoying the exhibition, what do you hope it might be?
That the flute is used throughout the world and throughout time to convey what it means to be human and to express what it means to be human and foundational elements of human activity, and that regardless of the culture, you can find shared themes but distinctive practices, and that
Hmm.
the culture does it in their own way, but that we all share this sense of humanity and artistic expression, and that there's beauty in both the shared elements and those distinctive elements.
And it just seems to go so well with MIM's broader mission of connecting cultures through music.
It really does. That is what MIM does. That is what we are proud to do and what we always want to do. We want to celebrate diverse cultures by sharing their musical instruments and their musical heritage and showing how these cultural networks develop, how they interact, and how they impact our daily lives today, and really show what we can learn from history and how it's applicable to today's society and how it resonates with us, both throughout history and in contemporary culture.
And I know the exhibition has a long stay into September, but up to now, what's been some of the reaction and feedback you've received, observed from the
It's
exhibition?
well, I mean, it's a fantastic exhibition. It's really exciting when you walk in. It sucks you in. You see something. Oh, and there's more. Oh, and there's more. And the performances that we have, Western flute performances by Jasmine Choi, a phenomenal, I mean, world-class player. She's the new best player in the world. And we've got Sir James
Wow.
Galway, and we've got these videos that show instruments in their ethnographic origin, in their cultures, and being played in a way that's true to the tradition. And that's a window, that's not something that you can just go see anywhere. And that's not something that you can just Google or find on YouTube. It's something that really needs to be thoughtfully curated. And those are the sorts of things that we were able to share and that are fascinating and exciting. And also they connect to the music that we love. And they are things you can bob your head to, tap your foot to, and you get excited about.
Oh, fabulous. Definitely makes me want to come out and enjoy the museum, enjoy the exhibition. I think after talking to both you and Sydney, I can't think of better representatives for the Tourist Bureau of Phoenix to want to come out there, most definitely to enjoy the musical instrument museum and this outstanding special exhibition. So, Matthew, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. Want to thank you again so much for being here, for sharing your knowledge, your passion, and providing us with an incredible overview of the Magic Flute exhibition. Continued success with future endeavors.
Thank you, Jay. It's been wonderful to be here. We look forward to welcoming you and all of your guests out to Phoenix anytime you can make the trip.
Fabulous, fabulous. Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.